calling to order the Eight-Town Regional School District Planning Board at 5:34. Good to see everyone. The meeting is being recorded as always. First thing on the agenda is approval of two sets of minutes. I see on the agenda that we had the date wrong of the October meeting. That was October 25th, 2022. And then we've got the minutes from November 29, 2022. So taking the October minutes first, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Charlie?
Yes.
Carl? I'm sorry, I haven't gone through the roll call of attendance, so let me do that before we get started on this vote. So from Alford, Charlie?
Yes.
And I'm here, Lucy. Carl, are you here? No. From Egremont, George?
Yes.
Hi. Tom Burkle? No. Jim? From Great Barrington, Deb?
Yep.
Peter?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
From Monterey, Don?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kimberly? Hey, Kim.
Yes.
Welcome. From New Marlboro, Susan?
Here.
Tara?
Here.
And Nancy?
Yep.
From Sheffield, Colin?
Here.
Nadine?
Present.
And Bonnie? From Stockbridge?
Patrick?
Patrick, hi. Is Michael
Hi.
here?
No, he's sick.
Okay. And from West Stockbridge? I think that's you, Patrick. Marie?
Sorry.
That's okay. Marie?
Here.
Andy?
Present.
And Sarah?
Here.
Great. Okay, so we've got a quorum present. I'm sorry, I didn't do that initially. And we were voting on the October 25th minutes. So Charlie,
Yes.
George,
I'll just vote present.
Deb,
Yes.
Peter Taylor,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kim. You want to vote present, Kim?
Sure. Present.
Okay, Susan,
Yes. Sorry.
that's okay. Tara,
Yes.
Nancy,
Present.
Colin,
Abstain. I was absent.
Nadine,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Marie,
Yes.
Andy,
Aye.
and Sarah.
Yes.
Lucy, we just had Bonnie join.
Okay. Hi, Bonnie. We're taking a vote on the October 25th minutes. Would you like to vote on those?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and so I'll take a motion on the November 29 minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, there's three minor corrections,
Okay.
Lucy. Page 4,
Mm-hmm.
third paragraph down. Attorney Dupree's name in the beginning of that is spelled incorrectly.
Yeah, I see that.
Fourth line down. Page 5, there's two, first paragraph, there's 2 periods at the end of amend.
Yep,
And on page 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph down, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth line, Kavanaugh is spelled incorrectly there,
yeah, yeah,
but it's spelled correctly through the whole entire rest of the document.
yeah. I guess I just missed that one. Well, thank you for those eagle eyes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
with those corrections, hearing no further discussion.
No,
oh, I'm
Lucy,
sorry, Colin. Go ahead.
bottom of page 7, if we could correct it to Mr. Smith instead of Mr. Collin.
Oh, we all missed that one.
I don't know.
I mean, I kind of like it, but
I kind of
just
like
keep
it too. All right. If you insist, we'll make that correction as well. Anything else? Any others? Okay. So all in favor of approving the November 29 minutes as corrected, Charlie?
Yes.
I'm a yes. George?
Present again.
Deb?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kim, you want to vote present on those?
I was going to abstain.
Abstain, okay. Susan?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Nancy?
Present.
Colin?
Yes.
Nadine?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Patrick?
Present.
Marie?
Yes.
Andy?
Aye.
And I'm in favor. Okay, so those are approved.
Lucy, I just promoted Tom Burkle.
Oh, great. Hi, Tom.
Good evening.
All right, so we do have, I think, some new planning board members tonight that we didn't have on the 29th. Sarah Orla from West Stockbridge. Sarah, can you just introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, everybody. I am Sarah. I am newly on the Berkshire Hills School Committee, representing West Stockbridge. And I have a son in the district and another who will be in the district soon.
Wonderful. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And Kim. Kim from.
I'm here. I'm getting a hang of my computer this evening.
Okay.
It's having issues with me. I am newly elected Monterey Chair for School Committee. I have 3 children in Southern Berkshire Regional School District, and my husband and I own a general contracting company out in Monterey. So that's
Great. Well, welcome to the 8-Town Board. We're really happy to have you join us tonight. So the first thing I wanted to address is our new slate of subcommittee members, and Jake and or Christine, I sent the new proposed slate to you so you could put it up on the screen. Do you have that?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay.
I'm going to, can people read that? Okay. My screen? Yes?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, there are like 3 different things on it, but yeah, we can see it.
Oh, you can't, you're seeing like more than,
Yeah, we're not seeing the subcommittee list.
okay.
We're seeing your whole desktop. Your whole desktop there.
Oh, we just almost saw it. We saw it for a split second.
It's a nice backdrop, though, I gotta say.
You like that?
I'm a fan of White Pines.
There we go.
You can see it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we got it. So this is the proposed slate. I did manage to speak with, I think all of the new subcommittee members, maybe with the exception of you, Kim, but I heard from Bonnie that this placement might be acceptable to you. But what's in red here is what's new from our last approved slate. So just take a moment to look at that. Sarah, Nancy, and Jim all expressed an interest in educational quality. Andy agreed to step on operations. Bonnie suggested that Kim might be willing to serve on operations. Carl said he was interested in community outreach. And of course, Bonnie is now on project management by virtue of her having been elected as chair of the Southern Berkshire Regional School District School Committee.
Do I raise my hand?
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I would like to also be added to finance if I could. If there's a room or as an alternate, I don't know. I'd like to sit, I've been sitting in on those meetings.
Okay. So that's a pretty big subcommittee right now. It's got 5-8 with the alternates.
I do not see any school committee members on it, however, that represent Southern Berkshire at all.
There are none that represent Berkshire Hills either, so it's even.
Yeah. It's really up to you, Nadine. How large a subcommittee you're comfortable with, just so people understand the way it works is that when we decided to form our subcommittees, we all agreed that we would have 5 members, 5 voting members, so that a quorum would be 3, which is doable. But that alternates would be welcome to participate and discuss. And in the absence of the primary members, alternates would vote. So that's the way it works now. I just thought it was worth clarifying that.
I don't have any problem with Kim serving as an alternate on finance. The more heads in the game, the better, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a little harder to manage 8 people, but so far everybody's been well behaved.
Okay.
Assumption of good intent.
That's right.
All right. Are there any objections to Kimberly being added as an alternate on finance?
Oh.
Okay. Are there any objections to any of the any other part of this proposed slate?
I want to thank the 3 new people who are stepping up to educational quality. I'm really pleased to have you all and to make our committee more robust than it has been. So thank you. Look forward to our first. I'll work with Christine to send out a doodle poll for early January for us to get together.
Okay.
Patrick White has his hand up.
Okay.
Hey, Lucy, I'll just point out that I'm not on any committees. I mean, I'm an alternate, so that's good, I guess. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but okay. I would suggest, though I don't think Stockbridge should have 2 representatives on it. I think that on the finance committee, where there's so many very important decisions, that we should have a 6-member committee with another representative of Berkshire Hills. I think that it's okay if it's 6, and I think that we really need consensus on the financial modeling between the 2 districts. Thank you.
So are you making a motion to change the?
I'm open to discussion.
All right, discussion on that question.
I have my hand raised.
All right, is it on this issue or a different issue?
It's this issue and tied to it. My sense is with a more robust, engaged regional planning board with these additional members. I'm so happy that you've added Kimberly to finance. I support what Patrick is saying. Those finance meetings have been very powerful. And I think if we expand with greater involvement from panel members to 6, I have absolutely no objection.
Any more discussion on Patrick's suggestion that the finance committee membership be increased from 5 to 6? I guess part of that suggestion, which I guess will be made into a motion if Patrick chooses, is that the additional 6th member be a representative from Berkshire Hills. Is that what I heard you say, Patrick?
Yes.
Andy
So
has his hand up.
Well, so is Bonnie.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
I think she got it before me.
Bonnie just spoke. So why don't you go, Andy?
Well, I'm just gonna. I mean, I I'm down with Nadine's thoughts around that. I really, I'm not comfortable with sort of like this idea that somehow we need to balance the 2 districts. We're all, I mean, again, you might have heard me say it sort of sotto voce, but I think we should operate from a point of an assumption of good intent. And ultimately, it's the entire committee that is going to have the final say over any of the stuff that's generated down in the subcommittee. So I don't see a real, it just doesn't feel right to me to like have a set lineup based on proportionality between the 2 districts. It doesn't feel right to me. Assumption of good intent by everyone that is on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. John?
Yeah, I'm going to second Andy's sentiment, and just I want to remind everybody of what we've all been saying all along, which is that we are not we have not been acting as a divided group. We have not been acting as a group representing solely our own town or our own district. We are talking about a new district with 8 towns. And if this early in the process, or I should say this late in the process, but this early in some of the most difficult things we're going to be considering in the next few months, I would hate to see us begin to try to jockey for positions when we've done so well, considering each of us as individuals with what we bring, regardless of what town we live in and what district we come from. We're creating a brand new district, and I would be sorry to see our congeniality and our working together start to become fractured.
Thank you.
I'm trying to raise my hand, but I'm not finding that option on my computer.
Under more, Kim.
Okay. I have mute. Under more? I am not seeing that.
I think the chair has recognized you, so.
Okay. So it's not about division or individuality or 2 districts or stuff, or in my view. My view is we have no information coming out of that committee right now for our school committee so that we can have intelligent discussion. there's nobody there. There's nobody in that lineup. There's no alternates. There's nobody. It's not about your district versus our district or anything like that. You guys are not joining us, on the weekly or bi-weekly basis. So it would make sense to me to have somebody there that can say, hey, this is what's going on. Because for me, it feels like not that it's lopsided. It's just there is nobody on the school committee that is sitting on that finance committee to be able to start a discussion.
I don't think anybody's questioning your addition. Patrick was talking about another balancing it between the two districts. No one's challenging you.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm trying to figure out where this conversation is going.
Patrick has a motion.
It wasn't a motion.
Patrick has an idea. Oh, let me go.
I'm sorry, Lucy. I'm stepping out of my lane, so I'll shut up.
Let me try and step into my lane a little bit. So let's go. I saw, Steve, your hand was up and now it's down.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I don't think it's about going back to the school committees. We don't even talk about this at our meetings, mostly. I think Patrick's point is only that it's nice in this case because it's so complicated to finance. It's nice to have a balance. And I don't think it's about a turf war or anything else. And I don't necessarily think it has to be a school committee member. And Andy's also right. I'm going to agree with everyone. I guess I'm in a good mood. It is going back to the whole committee, our whole committee, our planning board. So if there is something there that's missed, the entire committee will have a chance to comment on it. But I do think it's nice when it's this complicated to have equal representation. I don't think it's necessary everywhere, but I think in this case it might be.
All right, Peter Taylor.
Yeah, my view on this is how can we have a variety of community perspectives around, each of our subcommittees, both that are participating and who are ultimately will vote to forward things, because I gather the alternates will not, ultimately vote to forward something. And I don't see it really as school districts. I see it as community perspectives. And if I was to look at that committee and I would say, where would another community perspective really benefit the finance committee discussions? I would say it would be a Great Barrington perspective. That, yes, is part of Berkshire Hills, but it is also the largest community and would be the largest contributor to this. And so that, when I look at that lineup there, I would say, where's Great Barrington?
Okay. John, I'm gonna call on people in the following order. I see now 6 hands are up. It's almost 6 o'clock, and I thought this was going to take 5 minutes. So just be mindful of that. We have gone almost 3 years without any problem with our subcommittee lineup. And so I guess I am a little surprised that at this point, and also we've had real no splits in votes on any of these subcommittees when we voted out things. So I guess from my perspective, I'm a little bit surprised that we're having all this discussion and uncertainty about subcommittee membership at this point in our process, 3 years in. That's my editorializing.
Assumption of good intent.
Yeah, assumption of good intent, exactly. Okay, Don, you're up.
Will yield my position to Peter Taylor. I'm an alternate right now, although at one point you had made me a member, but that's all right. I'm an alternate. I offer my position to Peter Taylor if that's satisfactory to the rest of the committee.
Thank you, Don. Nadine?
As the chairman, I would just like to say that nobody from the planning board is ever denied the opportunity to speak at the finance committee. So if all 24 people wanted to show up and half of you all had something to contribute, I'm happy to recognize you and have you participate. So please, I don't necessarily feel that we need to increase the number. I have not excluded a single person from the board who has something to share on the finance committee. And I will continue to promise that that will be the way that I will continue to chair this committee. All ideas are valued and appreciated. So if you're not officially a member of the board and you wish to participate, please join us.
Thank you, Nadine. Patrick?
First, let me just say, all I've seen is goodwill from this group. I didn't know most of you when I joined. I think you're all awesome. I'm not at all, for me, it's not a question of self-interest versus the community interest. It's also not a question of anything divisive. For me, it's really that, and maybe you guys can guide me on this because I wasn't on this board when it first started. I just feel like I took an oath to the town, and I am the, part of the sort of chief executive, board of the town, and we have a fiduciary duty. And I guess, and this doesn't have to take up any more time, I'm happy to withdraw the idea, but we have two sets of responsibilities when we're select board members, and finances where they overlap. And I would rather have consensus come out of every group, and as much as possible act within the larger interest. But nevertheless, I've got an oath, and I've got to honor that oath, and that oath was to the town of Stockbridge. And so, I'm trying to balance that, and I'm not saying I'm not questioning anything. I think this has been an incredible experience. I just, the finances where the rubber is going to hit the road for a lot of our town budgets. And I think that these are where those hard decisions are going to have to be made. And with that, I'll withdraw the idea.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. So with Patrick withdrawing the idea, are people now comfortable moving forward, approving this membership slate with the addition of Kim as an alternate to Finance Subcommittee?
Lucy, could I just make a quick point? I'm happy with it, but I just want to make one quick point because I want people to understand the distinction between being a representative on a subcommittee and the communications going out of that subcommittee. So, for example, I think you don't need a school committee member to be on that board to communicate what's going on at that board, as Nadine says, in order to participate or to report back to either school committee. So I want to distinguish between the two. One is about being on the board, and one is about everyone can find out what's going on the finance subcommittee all the time.
Good point. Thank you. Bonnie, something quick?
Yes, something quick. I'm looking in terms of perception, outside perception. And I think, again, Patrick made a point. If we look at that committee, I think it's important that the community knows we've got somebody who's a select board member. And I think the balance might be slightly different. And I just want to know, Peter Taylor is ex officio on all the committees, therefore he can be, does that mean he could be a voting member on finance?
Not as an ex officio member now.
Okay.
And Peter has not accepted Don's gracious offer, and I don't know, Peter, whether you want to or you don't, but I'm just trying to move forward on this topic if we can, so that we can get to the other things on our agenda.
I will withdraw all comments then.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
And thank you for having Kim added to finance. That's really important. And my last thing is, we have the regional planning board as a standing item every school committee, as opposed to the way Berkshire Hills. So for us, it's very important to be able to hear from our school committee members. It is part of our agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so I will open the floor to a motion to approve this slate with the addition of Kimberly as an alternate on finance.
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay. Roll call vote. Charlie?
Yes.
Ami, yes. George?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jim?
I'll abstain. I'm sorry that I got here late. I got
No
tied up in
problem.
traffic. Okay.
Thank you for joining. Deb?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Para?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
Nadine?
Yes.
Bonnie?
yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Thank you. Marie?
Yes, and just as an FYI, I'm kind of a dual representative because I do live in Great Barrington. So I am on the finance. I live in Great Barrington, but I'm also representing West Stockbridge. So if that helps anybody's thoughts.
Thank you. Andy?
Aye, but I'll also add, I live about 200 feet up from the Great Barrington border, so I'm practically Great Barrington. I'm on their sewer. Jeez.
We can always count on you, Andy. Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right.
Can I add one more thing, Lucy?
Yeah.
I own a piece of Stockbridge in my backwoods. I got the border marker right there in my woods. I'm the perfect guy for for Berkshire Hills.
You're a tri-town guy.
Although I do have a motion to make on, or not a motion, but I just want to, can I just jump in on the agenda?
Okay.
Can we move the discussion of the agreement up to the front? And because we've been giving it like second shrift in every meeting I've been to. And it really should be first shrift if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems like we should give priority to discussing the agreement and the committee reports. Maybe we could read minutes or something.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, maybe I'm out of my lane here, but I really
No,
feel like
I understand the sentiment, and I think I will do that at the next meeting. We do have here some guests, Laura Rodriguez and Daisy Escobar, who are going to be presenting on the as part of the community outreach subcommittee update on the student forum. So I really do want to get them in today.
I guess I would propose that we have a meeting dedicated to the agreement, nothing else, and just get the business done.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not going to make the warrants. I can tell you that.
Take your point. All right. I think you'll be happy to know that agenda item 4, we're going to table for this meeting, unless I hear some objection to that. And Jake, maybe you can quickly get through your project manager report.
Sure, I just have one item. Let me just pull it up quick. I just need, so the good news is that we have been awarded the Community Compact Regionalization and Efficiency Grant. So that's really good news. At the last meeting, I told you we were applying for it. Let me just pull it over here. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so at the last meeting, I reported that we had applied for the grant. We wrote it in concert with the Berk 12 grant writer, myself, and she, with the support of Peter and Beth. Berkshire Hills is the fiscal agent on this particular grant. We wrote a grant for $200,000 and we received 125,000, which is fantastic. So very quickly, because I want to move on like you all. This was the original proposal. You can see the buckets, which you all, I believe, have seen before and probably twice now, or at least once. And because we got $125,000, we needed to make an adjustment to the budget. And I'd like, if possible, to get that approved tonight. So if you look at this slide, you will see the next slide is the, I did something wrong here. I apologize. But this new set of numbers adds up to 125,000, not 200. So this is incorrect. But basically, if you go back a line, you'll see the project management and oversight was 61,000. It's now 36,000. So each of the lines has been reduced, and this is basically how we got to the 125. I don't know if there's any questions. I guess what I want you all to know is this puts us in really, really good position. So as you all know, at the last meeting, I told you we'd have about enough money to pay for your project manager, your admin assistant, and your legal through March. With this 125, we now have the ability to extend really through the summer. Also have some consulting support. We have support to pay stipends for ed visioning work. We have money, you'll see $22,000 in the community engagement line. If and when the board were to vote to head in a direction, we would certainly want to do a lot more community outreach, and those funds could be used for that purpose. And then obviously legal to take us through, basically the summer. So I do apologize for the error on the I've been running a little fast this last week. So
that number at the bottom should be what?
125.
Okay.
Change it.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the budget as adjusted?
So moved.
Second? Okay. Any discussion? George?
Yes. I'd like to ask Jake about the project management figure.
Sure.
Which certainly is the largest out there.
Yep, that's what you pay me. So,
and that would be through what period of time, Jay?
Well, theoretically through the summer, probably through September.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I just so I'm not, so you understand fully. I also received compensation through Berk 12. So for the last year plus, they have been paying for hours that have gone towards my time with you all. So you pay for about 12 hours a week. And they've also done the same with consulting support. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm in a very unique position now in an interim role at Lennox 3 days a week. So with this $36,000 figure, a lot will be dependent upon how long Lennox needs me. And so that could be another 30 days. That could be potentially through June. So they're in the midst of a search and we'll know. So the money's there. If we don't need to draw from it, it's heavily, because obviously I'll only be charging you for the hours I work. Then you'll have that money to do other things with. I also just want to remind everyone that we do have a fund on the Berk 12 side, which we had intended to use to carry us through March. We're going to stop using those funds because those are they're not time bound. They're not going to expire. And so that'll give us a little wiggle room if and when we need more money. But because this grant will expire, we want to draw from it as quickly as possible. We need to vote tonight because Peter and Sharon Harrison, the business manager in Berkshire Hills, need to submit the grant so we can get the paperwork completed and start to draw in the new year. Thank you.
Okay. So seeing no further hands, I'm going to call for the vote. Charlie?
Yes.
I'm a yes. George?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
Nadine,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Marie,
Yes.
Andy,
Aye.
Sarah.
Yes.
Great, unanimous, and congratulations, Jake, on getting us that grant. That was huge. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. All right, on subcommittee updates, I'm going to jump right to community outreach because we have, as I said, two presenters, Laura Rodriguez and Daisy Escobar. Can you promote both of them, Christine, for us?
Yes. Okay.
Are they on? I'm just not seeing them.
I'm
Yes.
here.
Oh, there you
Okay.
are, Laura. Okay. So Laura and Daisy, welcome. Daisy, great to see you. You're up, Laura.
Okay, so hi everybody. Long time no see. It's been all of 2 weeks since we were all together in a facilitated discussion. Maybe it's a little bit longer. I'm here presenting to you from my position at Railroad Street Youth Project as the director of the Southern Berkshire Community Health Coalition. We are a youth-led health coalition, which is a really fun and actually quite liberating way to operate. And we have two co-chairs, one from Monument, one from Mount Everett. And tonight, Daisy Escobar is joining us to present on the forum 2 and 3 of of these district merger forums that we've been hosting. I just want to quickly recap that we hosted our first one at Railroad Street Youth Project with, I believe, 13 attendees. We hosted a second one at Mount Everett with about 20 attendees, 5 of whom were from Monument. And then we hosted a third one at Simon's Rock. It was very small and intimate. There were 8 attendees. Correct me if I'm wrong, Daisy. And 3 were from Mount Everett. 5 were from Monument. So I'm just going to quickly introduce you to Daisy, who is our co-chair for Mount Everett, was just named to the transition team for our newly elected DA, Andrea Campbell. And yeah, just an amazing human all around. So Daisy, take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Laura, and thank you everyone for having us here at today's meeting. And I'm very excited to get into this presentation. So like Laura said, we had 2 very successful forums. The first one being at Mount Everett. We had a great turnout and we had a little bit of a discussion about resources and different things that were missing or that some people felt that were lacking in both schools and different things that could come from this merger. So it ended up being what's missing, what do we have currently, and transitioning into what could this merger look like for students, or things like what are you afraid of losing in this merger as well. So at Mount Everett, some of the current resources that were identified by students were the culinary program, wood shop, the small size class sizes, the early college designation program with Simon's Rock was a big one. The different programs like the FFA, the small campus, and the diverse sports program that was offered, and the theater program that was all part of a great, well-rounded kind of system and programming at Mount Everett. Some of the things that students identified as missing were mental health resources, bilingual staff, having a car shop, different sports like track and field, and some communication about graduation, college, different things like that, and identifying that there weren't enough guidance counselors currently at the schools. Monument was more of the same. They identified mental health resources and having a lack of a clinical team. They were missing, they had not lack, sorry, that they had currently a clinical team, the wellness program, therapy animals and supportive teachers, and student advocacy opportunities, different groups that like the Inclusion Task Force and different areas where they could be vocal about what was going on in the schools, what they needed, really advocating for their needs. And missing for them was the diverse staff, the FFA, different things from lockers to other things that people identified as needing therapy cats, but also fair distribution of resources for sports versus other programs at schools. And mentioning that sports are often prioritized in the schools other than other programs such as theater or other things that are going on at the schools. And they also identified considerations for lower income students without advocacy, so mostly coming from administration and the school board having those resources for those students. And a lot of students identified from this merger that what they would like to see in a potential merger in the school that would include everything that they wanted. They would see a culinary program with internships, ideally a program that could lead to a certification, more diverse programs about the FFA, agriculture, working with the farms, the local farms here in the Berkshires, having an expanded curriculum, having more people and more opportunities for different clubs, and better diversity of interests that could lead to connections among students and better mental health overall. And in the long term, CTE programs that could lead to jobs in the community, and different ways that sports and theater could improve, having a vet program, among other things, diversity of art programs, diversity in general, more acceptance and support, a more developed English language department and having translators on staff, and even for their classes, having more of a non-Eurocentric history, more people power for marginalized groups, more school trips abroad, and more foreign language courses or opportunities were among some of the many things that students identified. And as far as loss, when the conversation turned to what are you afraid of losing in this merger, a lot of students said that they were afraid of losing, especially for Mount Everett. We got a lot of students saying that they were afraid of losing the essence of what is Mount Everett, that it represents generations of families and community, and it's very a tight-knit community. Everyone knows each other. Teachers have known students since they were little kids. They've been going to the school for a long time, and there's very deep connections within the school. And because of that, they're afraid of losing the staff and those connections that they have built for so long that often their siblings have even built. Often teachers know entire families and the siblings who go through their classes and through generations. They also identified Mount Everett students not making sports teams, being kind of the ones who are left out or who aren't prioritized. I'm saying that the new merger would feel like the new school would feel like it's on Monument's territory, and they would feel like they're being absorbed into the Monument culture, and they would lose their identity and lose everything that they have known. And they are afraid of losing the early college designation that they recently got, that so many, that they quoted that many teachers and many administrators had fought for so long, and that they finally got, and they're afraid of losing that. And different things from the ski program to the curriculum style, the tight-knit community, teachers, some of the students have families, parents who are often teachers are afraid of their parents losing their jobs or where their jobs would go, or if they would be able to transition into the new school or how that would look like. There was also concern from the Monument students about the racial tension in culture and the transition from how it's perceived at Mount Everett to Monument, and kind of that concern. There was also concern from Mount Everett about the drug culture at Monument, and really that kind of the perception that both of them have, and integrating those two very different school cultures. And many people identified, again, losing that community and that feeling of growing up in one building, and the acknowledging that it will cease to exist over time, and that the identity, the history will be lost in between this transition from having two schools that are completely different to creating an entire new one with nothing of the past school or the school that currently exists. And a lot of students identified that it would be difficult, but it could also make younger folks better people, those who are accustomed to different views, and they could create a more accepting and integrated culture, a more educated culture on different cultural competency, more diverse, but also, again, that forced integration, that feeling of forced integration really came up in a lot of our conversations and was a common concern for many students. And some identified even that the Farmington River Enrichment student experience at Monument could be similar to what Mount Everett students will experience, the feeling of a new school and the entire identity being lost. So we made a vote, a mock vote. It was non-anonymous, and the common consensus was no. We had 15 students say no, but we had 5 who said yes. Mainly the students who said no were the Mount Everett students, and the students who said yes were from Monument. So that kind of really spoke to what we wish we could have done was an anonymous vote, but it was also a very nice discussion and interesting to see both sides. And it wasn't like we also talked about kind of the feeling of rivalry between the schools, and we kind of debunked that. There was a lot of connection in the room. You could feel the discussions that were happening, students really building off of each other and really connecting on different things, that finding a middle ground for both schools where they felt that they didn't have, but for this new potential merger that they could build off of having a new school and creating new programs. And we're really excited about the idea. I think the main thing for this forum was mostly from Mount Everett students feeling that having not enough information about the merger and what it would look like. And also when we asked, why did you vote no and why did you vote yes? A lot of students from Monument said that they voted yes because, again, really exciting new opportunities, new ways to integrate new students and create a common vision for a school for its students and have new programming that could really thrive if well planned and well really incorporating the voice of students and the needs of students, of its students and its community. While others who said no said that mainly because they didn't have enough information about the transition, and because they felt, again, the transition itself seemed really daunting and really scary as a Mount Everett student, and worrying about how younger students could really, being accustomed to the school that they are now, really losing that and having to adapt to an entirely different school system, and how that would look like not only on transportation, but also the jobs of teachers that they've known for so long, and other things on how they would be incorporated into this new school, which they feel as though it would be mainly Monument's territory, and it would feel very different and weird. But that was the second merger forum that we hosted at Mount Everett. I guess I'll switch gears to the third one, which was last week, December 6th at Simons Rock. We chose a more neutral location. Like Laura mentioned, we didn't have as much of a turnout as last time, but we had a very intimate and close conversation. Me and my other co-chair, Lily, when we got together to really plan out what this merger was going to look like, we wanted to have more interaction, more discussions, similarly to what we had in the past forum, where we saw those like really that deep thinking and those conversations that were going on about values, about different aspects of a school that were important to the students. So we came up with some activities that we could do as a group and individually. So we came up with an activity which was drawing your ideal school on a piece of paper with your core values inside. So this was among the many things that we did. We also asked more specific questions about what the school mascot would be that would be interesting and engaging to the students, not just presenting at them, but also really including them in part of the planning process and making their voice heard and their needs heard and what they wanted to see, what they physically wanted to see, but also what they envisioned and wanted to talk more about. So again, we had kind of more fun questions about the school mascot, different ideas for the name of the schools, to other questions that were a little bit more serious, but kept everyone in a discussion on what would happen if this merger doesn't happen. Hypothetically, if it doesn't happen or if it does happen, what would that look like? What would that mean for your schools? What do you think, if it doesn't happen, what do you think could happen in your school that could change? That something's going on in the schools that clearly caused this whole merger movement to kind of happen. So what needs to happen inside of your school to really change the culture, the environment that you're currently, or that future generations are going to be in? What improvements, what progress can be made? And what other things can also facilitate the transition if this merger happens as well? What are some things or some ideas that you have on how to make it easier for other students, which was kind of what we identified in the last one as being like the main issue for some students on that transition. So we had the activity, and so we called it our visioning activity for the physical elements. A lot of what came up was having a warm, homey space to the new school, sort of like the Berkshire Waldorf School, open air, very airy, very warm, welcoming feel, a place that was big enough to include different areas from mental health, offices that were more private, more confidential, weren't as open in the main hallways, having a lot of natural lighting, having quiet spaces for study, having a pond or a hockey rink, also having a rooftop terrace, a lot of community connections. So students and community murals, having a lot of natural plants, a space for a garden house or a greenhouse, a lot of solar panels, and different things that would help make it feel more welcoming to any student who walked in, having an athletic center and gym accessible, different other features that could really make the school stand out, from like a fountain to a natural garden. Also inside the schools, really more inclusive, inclusive bathrooms, a lot more amenities like air conditioning and heating, offices and meeting rooms, having a cultural center and a designated student center and senior center, as well as a culinary program, and different things that could really make the school more appealing and more welcoming, like from vending machines to having a school store to simple things like having tables instead of desks to comfy chairs that would really accommodate any and every student. So these were some of the physical elements of the school itself. And when we went on to what would really integrate both schools, we know Mount Monument and Mount Everett have their own identities. What could really integrate those two schools if we came together as one? A lot of people said that. I actually suggested the idea of integrating the history of both schools with a walk or hall of fame. So it would include.
I'd like to see the chair take some action.
Okay, Don, I just want Daisy to have an opportunity to finish up and enjoying the presentation, Daisy. And I know you're near the end, but we got a lot on the agenda. So if you could finish up in the next couple of minutes, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. Incorporating the history, Hall of Fame with photos and awards and trophies from both schools. And a lot of what came up for general concepts and values for the school was kindness, having welcoming and respectful values for passion, drive, and rewards for hard work, a lot of progressiveness and communication, and again, resources for college and vocational and trade options for students who wanted to pursue that in their future, and different things that came up, like potential school names and mascots. But when we got down to what if this doesn't happen, a lot of what came up was needing more conversations between the administration and students, having connections between both schools, and also having a lot more student input and say on decisions and information about different things that happen in their schools that are going to happen, as well as for Mount Everett specifically, mental health resources. And a lot of students really prioritize the need for student voice and leadership, as well as cultural competency. And perhaps if there isn't a merger that happens with an entire new school, perhaps a model that could be interchangeable and facilitated between both schools, as well as an equal connection to community organizations between Monument and Mount Everett. And some of the suggestions to help with the transition that came from students were having shared clubs before the merger, shared events like school dances and other activities, and also including students, by far the most important point, including students who will be directly impacted, such as middle school and younger students, and hearing their opinions and their voice on this matter as well, since it will be primarily affecting them by the time, if this merger happens, by the time it happens, it will be affecting them. And what came from one of our participants who is in 7th grade, mentioning that she didn't know anything prior to coming to these meetings about the merger, and that the only way that she was really informed was by coming to this merger and hearing the discussions that were happening and the information that was being given. But if she were to ask any other kid in her grade, none of them would really know what was going on or would have any information on the matter. So she expressed a very big need to have more middle schoolers and other students be included in this conversation. And to also help for the transition would be to enlist teachers to remove their bias from the process when discussing the merger with younger students as well, if these discussions were to happen. And their main message to this board is that this merger would really impact a lot of people, that it would benefit Monument students, particularly in regards to the building, but they are really open to hearing more information and being really included in the process for the transition, as well as having more information for the younger generations of students who will be primarily affected by this merger. But that is our presentation on the merger. We did do a vote this time. It was anonymous, and we had 7 yes and 1 no vote, who specifically cited, again, concerns about the transition. But this is our presentation. These were what came up for both of our forums.
Thank you, Daisy. That's a very comprehensive report. We appreciate it. Mindful of time, I'm going to hold on questions. Laura, is there anything you'd like to add to round it out?
Yeah, just being mindful of time, I just want to very clearly say that the student input has just as much importance as anything else on any agenda that we will have. So it's really important that we acknowledge the weight of student input in this process. Lastly, I just want to mention that our follow-up going into the new year is to try and organize forums for middle school students, because we're hearing that that's extremely important, keeping in mind that those will be the young people that will first be impacted by a merger.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And
Laura-
Lucy, I do have a couple questions that I don't want to let lie.
Okay.
I have one question around the mention of drug culture. The prevention needs assessment survey. Where are we at in that cycle? Do we have one coming?
We actually, I'm glad you asked that. That was administered in all the schools this past month. So
Okay.
we are looking forward to results on that in hopefully the next 6 to 8 weeks. And we'll be reporting back in schools about that.
But I just want to make sure that the aggregate level of that survey is Southern Berkshire County, right? Or actually Berkshire County.
All of Berkshire County. And we do
there's
even
not a
have-
culture here or a culture there.
Yeah, and these are perceptions. These are all perceptions that
I
we're
understand.
reporting on.
Oh,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to put that in the minutes somewhere. That
Yes,
these are
I appreciate
perceptions.
that. I appreciate that, Andy.
So with that, Lucy, I hand it back to you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for putting that in the minutes. That's important. I thought you had 2 points. Was that the only one, Andy? 2 questions?
No, I think we can move on.
Okay. Daisy, again, I really want to thank you for all the effort you put into all 3 of these forums. And I hope, very much hope, that you and your co-chair stay engaged. I'm really happy to hear that you're going to continue the forums with the middle schoolers. I think that's fantastic. And we'll have you on the agenda again as soon as we can. But thank you. And thank you, Laura, for volunteering to stay engaged on this and help us with this really important work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Unless there's an objection, I'm going to skip over the other subcommittee updates unless subcommittee chairs feel a burning need to give us a report, or if you want to give a report, let's make it short. Nadine, is there anything you'd like to report or summarize?
Not a thing. We're still working on assessment formulas.
Great. Deb?
Nothing. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we've gotten to item 7, continued discussion of the agreement. And the first thing on the agenda is a poll on the preferred approach. I do apologize to the new members for jumping into this at your first meeting, but I'm sure you've all reviewed the minutes, been following along. Jake, maybe you can just lay out the options in a slide, and we can give that introduction. You want to just talk through this, Jake?
Sure.
Or do you want me to do it?
No, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So you all have been discussing for a couple of meetings possible school committee organizational models. And at the last meeting, at 2 meetings ago, you had sort of narrowed down the universe of options to a handful. But then at the end of the meeting, there were a couple of options that were raised as variations. And I apologize for naming these after people. You don't own them. so no worries there. But we had Nadine, Patrick, and then Roger from the gallery propose some options. At the last meeting, this slide, I believe, was up, and I was actively marking it up so that you could see what we were deciding potentially to move forward with. And assuming I captured everything correctly, which I believe I did because you disapproved the minutes, you all settled on 3A, which is an 11 committee membership. you can read the screen. With obviously all towns having 1, 3 from Barrington and 2 from Sheffield. 3A double prime is basically the same as 3A, but increases membership to 13, so 2 additional members, with those members being elected at large across all 8 towns. And then I believe there was interest in, Roger had proposed 2 possibilities, an 8-member committee with 1 member from each town, or a 10-member committee with 1 member from each town and 2 members elected at large. So these are the 3 options that I believe where we are, but that does not mean that you all can't revisit other possibilities. So I'll stop talking there.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do, since we do have some new members who haven't been part of the discussion of these various options over the last 2 meetings, actually, is ask for someone, at least one, preferably one, person to speak in favor of each of the 3 that are currently on the table, and one person maybe to give the counterpoint before we actually do a poll. And if folks think there's a better approach to this, I see now 3 hands are up. I'm sure we'll have lots of different ideas on how to approach this, but I don't think we can go into the poll completely cold. So Deb, why don't you give us the benefit of your advice on that?
Well, what I'm going to do is sort of throw a monkey wrench in that you may or may not want to consider. But looking at the Kavanaugh proposal, one of the things the BRTA does is, instead of having more members and apportioning the number of representatives, they actually apportion the votes that each representative gets. If we're thinking about equal representation in voting, and it's a way of electing, keeping the board smaller. One of the things about the Kavanaugh proposal that we all liked was that it kept the board smaller. The 10-member committee left those 2 at-large seats that could come from the larger towns or not. But the other way is to keep it at 8 and think about apportioning them. So I wanted to, just make it more complicated, Lucy.
Appreciate that, Deb.
I thought you would.
I mean, to me, that sounds very much like weighted voting, which I thought we all agreed a couple of meetings ago was not one of the preferred approaches. But what
I guess
I'm hearing,
I don't remember the conversation about weighted voting, so I guess I'm just circling back around. But if we took it off the table, that's okay. I believe you that we did. So I'll speak a little bit in favor of the Kavanaugh proposal then, just to get us going, which was just that that because all of the representatives are elected by members of all towns, and their goal is for all of them is to look out for the best interests of all the students in South Berkshire County, 1 from each town. We shouldn't view it as one town needing more authority than another. So that was sort of where the support for the Kavanaugh proposal came from.
Okay.
That helpful?
Yes, thank you. Of the hands that are up, who would like to speak to the process of now reviewing these 3 options that are on the table, as opposed to speaking in favor or against any one of the options? Anyone?
Lucy, I was going to talk about one of the proposals, but I think it's a good idea to talk about the process.
Okay.
So I would just like a clarification, I guess, first.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing polls, but I think we've also discussed ranked voting, and I just want to understand where we're going. Ranked voting can work really well. It's a good way of getting a kind of a larger, more comprehensive review of the voters' opinions. And so, personally, I'm in favor of not of polls, but of a rank voting, assuming that these three are going to be on it. And I think you need a minimum of three in order to do rank voting. I think that I would like to propose that we discuss all three of these. I actually have an amendment of the Kavanaugh, which I'd like to propose, but otherwise that we review them all. And when we're comfortable, we just do rank voting on all three.
Well, that's what I meant to say, John.
Perfect.
And that's what's in the minutes. That was
Perfect.
What was decided at the end of the last meeting, which was we would do ranked voting of three options, 3A, 3 double prime, and Kavanaugh 10. I just wanted the new folks to have the benefit of some back and forth on each of the three that are on the table.
Absolutely. And I would like to talk about Kavanaugh, but why don't we let some other people talk about the other ones first, and then I'll circle back.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, I'll just speak briefly. And I've expressed this concern before. I think the at-large has some merits, but I think if we're trying to explain this to the voters and get this passed, I think at-large is very confusing to people. I think keeping it similar to what we have now, which is 3A, would make the most sense. In addition, we've narrowed it down to 3A, which would have 11 members, 3A double prime, which would have 13, and the Kavanaugh proposal, which as I read it, would have 10. So it's not like any of those has a large difference. They're all within close enough. And 11 members, actually, people talk about wanting an odd number, although I'm not worried about that. 3A would provide that. But I am worried that the at-large is just going to be another problem for us to explain, and people may be against it, and that may hurt us at the polling place.
So Steve, just to clarify, are you now ranking as number one for you, 3A? Is that your favorite?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Yes. 3A has the advantage of being closest to what we have now. That's very important. When you're doing change, you want to do change that achieves your goal, but is least different from the past as possible. Adding, as 3A double prime does, 2 at-large residents, at-large candidates, members, adds a concept that we've never had in the district, that people will not understand and they will be wary of, and has the second problem of adding yet 2 more members to the board. It doesn't have anything. Kavanaugh disregards the legitimate interest in the larger towns. And if that is selected by this committee, my prediction is that that is the end of this project.
Colin? Colin, you're muted still.
I was just going to say similar things that just were said. I let this simmer from the last time we were having a conversation about it. And I do think that going on choosing something that is too different from what we have now is going to be more difficult for people to digest when they're making a decision about this. And this is going to be a huge decision for everybody. Already in conversations that we've had with our select board in Sheffield, I'm already feeling like, they're having a hard time grasping. Some of them are having a hard time grasping it. So I agree with Don. Keeping it similar to what we have is good. I really like the Kavanaugh proposal, but I would prefer to do that after we get this whole thing together. And if things aren't working, that might be something that that helps people get involved. So my feeling, and I'm saying this to everybody that's listening, is let's stick with what people are familiar with if we want to get these 2 committees together, or these 2 school districts together.
Thanks. George?
Thank you, Lucy. I would actually like to speak in favor of the Kavanaugh proposal. And I'd like to say that the Southern Berkshire Regional School District, all of the school committee members are in fact voted at large. Apparently, Don Coburn and Howard are not aware of that, but that's the way it is, and that's the way it's been done. And that's the reason that the recently elected member of the school committee from Alford got 2,000 votes plus recently, because all 8 towns are allowed to vote for all members of the school committee.
Yeah, just a point of clarification here, and maybe at large is confusing, but all of these proposals, 3A, 3A double prime, and Kavanaugh, 10-member, include district-wide voting. So they're all district-wide voting. The at-large component, which would be new for 3A double prime and Kavanaugh 10, is that some number, 2, of the school committee members would have no residency requirements. All will be elected district-wide, but what's new with 3A double prime and Kavanaugh, and what I think Don is referring to and Colin was referring to as a new concept, is that 2 of the school committee members could be from any of the 8 towns. The others have residency requirements. So the at-large is another way of saying some of the members would have no residency requirement. Just trying to clarify that.
Lucy, I'm not sure that's right, unless I'm mistaken. At-large simply means you can come from any one of the 8 towns.
Exactly. But
no residency means you don't have to be a resident to vote, unless I'm misunderstanding what Don suggested last week about it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it.
Yeah, let's go through it again. Okay. So currently in both districts, all school committee members are elected district-wide. So every resident of each of the member towns in the 2 districts gets to vote for all of the school committee members. But there are residency requirements, meaning that a certain number of the school committee members come from specified towns. So in Southern Berkshire, 1 has to be an Alford resident, 2 have to be from Egremont, etc. But everyone gets to vote on all 10 school committee members in both of the 2 districts. So when we're talking about at large, let's just use 3A double prime as an example. We're saying 13 members are on the board. We have district-wide voting for all 13. One of the 13 has to reside in Alford. One of the 13 has to reside in Monterey. One of the 13 has to reside in New Marlborough, Egremont, West Stockbridge, and Stockbridge. 3 of the 13 have to reside in Great Barrington. 2 have to reside in Sheffield, and the remaining 2, the so-called at-large members, can be from any of the 8 towns. But all of the candidates are subject to election by the voters in all 8 towns. That's district-wide voting. And all of these 3 options include district-wide voting. You see at the top, emphasis, all options are district-wide and biennial elections.
Right, but at large on 3A double prime, it's a redundancy. You're saying it's at large, which is the same as meaning no residency requirement.
Correct.
Kavanaugh does not say with no residency requirement. So I think there's confusion about why those two are different. In fact, they're the same. At large means no residency requirement in the sense of towns. I just want people to understand that that is not a difference between 3A double prime and Kavanaugh.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
But there is a difference.
I agree, and I would love to talk about Kavanaugh when you get the chance.
Okay. Are there others? Are there others with hands up? Let me just ask new members, do you have any questions about what these three options are?
No, Nancy from New Marlboro.
Kim?
No, not at all.
Okay. And Jim, I assume you're clear on it because you were at our last meeting. Sarah, do you have any questions about what the three options are?
No, I don't.
Okay, great.
You have a couple of the hands up, Lucy.
Okay, Susan.
Thanks, Lucy. I've been struggling this for 3 meetings and then more. I guess when you had asked, speak for or against, one of the issues that I have with 3A against is what John raised at the last meeting, is that with 3 members from Great Barrington and the way we have to take that the school committee would be taking votes, is that 2/3 could kill a budget. And the way that 3A is structured kind of has an inherent situation where Great Barrington could tip the scales on any potential issue, as I'm understanding all of this. So that's one of, I guess, my, what you were saying about speaking against a particular proposal. On the flip side, the issue is I know this is incredibly political and how to get this across. And I know that it is important from a perspective that Great Barrington has the biggest pocketbook and the biggest number of students and should have a larger voice. That's kind of why I'm leaning more towards, the at-large ability where additional members could potentially come from Great Barrington. So I'm not ranking anything right now. I'm just expressing my pros and cons of dealing with 3A, and don't know if that might be helpful for the new members.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone's doing the arithmetic right, and I'm doing the arithmetic right. So if it's an 11-member school committee, right, 2/3 would require 8 votes. Is that right? Everyone agree with that? Colin, you agree with that? Nadine, our accountants? 2/3
Yes.
requires 8 votes, right?
Yes,
So-
Lucy, I agree.
Okay, so Great Barrington can't kill it by Great Barrington's self, right? Because there
Lucy,
are,
I'm sorry, I need to disagree with that. If Great Barrington has 3 votes, one other vote from any other town
Right,
or any other town representative kills it. If everyone has the same, that can't happen. So it's
Okay,
not
but John-
just that
John-
they have 3 votes.
John,
It's that
I'm
they-
just trying to clarify what Susan said. You can speak in favor of Kavanaugh in a minute, but she said Great Barrington can kill it. It would have to be the residents from Great Barrington plus one more could kill.
Thank you,
a budget.
Lucy.
Right,
I'm not
Susan?
a math whiz. Correct. I'm not a math whiz.
Okay.
I apologize, but that's where one of my concerns are, is there's a potential block that with one more vote could sway things. So anyway, that's my concern about 3A.
Okay. All right, Patrick.
Okay, I think that on one hand, because it's all it's all, I mean, because it's district-wide voting, that it's not like, you can't make an absolute argument that it's not one person, one vote. But at the same token, it strikes me that, to the concern just raised, if the 3 select board folks are opposed to a budget and they're paying for half the school district or something like that, I think that, that folks should really stand up and come up with a budget that the taxpayers who are paying can live with. I mean, honestly, I think that as sort of like the town that is on the fence between, we're sort of in between the size of the towns with 1 vote and the size of the towns with 2 or 3. I fully support a model that gives Sheffield and Great Barrington an outsized voice, as they have in our district already, because it's, the reality is that those taxpayers are funding things. And I will also tell you that, what resulted in us switching to EQV on the capital side was specifically because the last time the high school came up, I think it was voted down because there was some, at least partly, because there was some resentment that the folks in Great Barrington didn't think it was fair. They were carrying so much of the weight, and I'm just saying, I think this has the potential to, the fact of the matter is that Sheffield and Great Barrington are going to pay for the majority of the district. And I don't think it's at all unreasonable for them to get a majority of the say in how the district is run, Thank you.
Thanks. Nadine?
I just want to point out that this could potentially happen right now in the Southern Berkshire District with Sheffield and New Marlborough. It has never happened, to my knowledge. I mean, Bonnie, you can correct me. Yeah, and so I think we're making an issue of something that's not really an issue. I think it's unlikely that 2 towns will get together at a school committee meeting and vote down a budget presented by the superintendent. It may happen at the town level, but I think it's very unlikely that it would ever happen at a school committee level.
Okay. Peter Taylor, you haven't spoken yet. Andy, you haven't spoken on this yet. Bonnie, I don't think you've spoken on it yet, so I'm gonna recognize you in that order.
Sure, and I'll be brief. I just want to say that I think the points made by Don, Steve Bannon, Patrick, and Nadine reflect my views.
Which is
3A.
3A. Okay. I have to say, just editorializing, I'm not commenting on which one I like better, but I find it actually very encouraging that people are sort of changing their points of view based on the discussions we've been having, and people who previously ranked 3A double prime as their number 1 are now ranking 3A as their number 1. And I think that means we're having healthy, good discussions here, just in terms of people being open to listening to other people's points of view. All right, who did I say next? Andy?
Yeah, I think 3A. I mean, I've shifted. I was 3A double prime at one point, but the at-large does seem sort of kind of silly since, But I mean, I guess the point that I would like to make is that ultimately, this all comes from. I mean, ultimately, these budgets go to the town, and to the town and to town meeting, and and ultimately that's what the school committee is trying to get to. The ultimate goal of the school committee is to get a budget, period, and they need to get it to the point where they can get it past that, in this case, 8 town warrants. So I have a feeling that that's going to be that'll be a pretty interesting. I don't think anybody's going to be knocking down budgets very, very freely. I mean, I just don't see that happening. based on whether they're from Great Barrington or whether they're from Sheffield. They're going to have to get it through 8 town warrants, and they will know that when they're looking at those budgets that come from the superintendents. That's just me. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you. I just want to go back and second very much, very highly what both Don and Colin said. Having attended meetings that are not us, you realize how confused the majority of the population is just with the current way to vote. And I think 3A gives us the greatest chance of having people understand what we're doing. And Nadine made a very, very important point from now, obviously, from my school committee perspective. We don't currently do anything where it's like the people who live in Sheffield and people in New Marlborough are ganging up on a budget. The only thing that will happen is at budget meetings, someone will say, well, look, this is what I'm hearing on the streets. If it goes above this, we're not going to get select board support. Nadine's other point, which is very clearly one that could happen with any of these, is that towns can align. So I think at this point, I am not changing my position, and I think 3A is the way to go in with a vote towards sanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanity is good. John.
You say John?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make an amendment to Kavanaugh because I was also thinking about it in the last couple of weeks. And I want to propose that we go to 11 with 8, one from each town and 3 at large, because I do like the idea of 11. I know Steve talked about odd and even numbers, and it does generally work out, but it does change the 2/3 supermajority required if you have 11 versus 10. So, and also I think that 3A and Kavanaugh are actually not that different. And they will appear less different if there's 11 on both. And the reason why I like Kavanaugh is that each town is guaranteed 1 seat on the committee. Each town may possibly seat more than 1, right? Because they're district-wide for the at-large, or as many as actually 4 of the 11 if, for example, my little town of Monterey were to get 4 seats. But the truth is the larger towns would have an advantage in seating additional members because they have more votes. In other words, if they put up a candidate for the at-large position that's from Great Barrington, they have that advantage. And then the other towns, any larger town is going to have an advantage in voting over smaller towns. And what this does is it increases the competition for at least the 3 at-large seats, or what I will call the extra seats for any given town, because they'll have to be, you're competing not just, you're not, if you fix the number of, let's say, 3 for one town, they're not competitive in the sense that the town is guaranteed 3 seats. But if the at-large seats above the 8 minimum, 1 for each town, is competitive, then even the candidates within the larger towns are going to have to make a case for their candidacy during the process. It'll make the elections more competitive, and it will increase both the quality and the commitment of the at-large members. Otherwise, additional seats that are guaranteed to the larger towns, they can attract very uncommitted candidates. And in fact, 1 vote, right? Because that's fixed, right? You can vote for any number of Great Barrington candidates or Monterey candidates for that position, but it's guaranteed. So we're essentially guaranteeing 3 seats for Great Barrington and 2 for Sheffield, but they're not competitive. And it limits the flexibility of the committee over time, which could change its composition based on the quality of the candidates, which is what we're all looking for. And it also constrains the voters, because then even though it's an at-large vote, we have to vote for 3 from town X, 2 from town Y, and only 1 from the rest. And so this opens the whole thing up. The other thing I want to say is that, the planning board itself that we're all sitting on is a shining example of how equal representation among the 8 towns can work. We all have effectively one voice and one vote in this whole process. And I don't think it's difficult to understand. And I think I apologize for focusing on the negative, the idea of blocking a budget before it even gets to the towns. But I do think that you're going to see much more competition among the extra members, no matter which town they come from, and much more of an interesting election every 4 years if you're voting for those extra 3 members at large. And I think that's good for everybody. And I would hate to see these additional seats, wane because they're guaranteed to the town. So that's why I support an 11-member Kavanaugh proposal.
So John, are you making a motion to amend the Kavanaugh proposal to 11 with 3 at large?
Yes, I would love to do that, just so that everybody can vote on that when we do the.
Well, let's vote on this.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman. I don't believe the discussion is complete.
No, but there's a motion on the table, George, and I need to deal with the motion. So I'm going to ask if there's.
I didn't hear a motion. I heard you asking for a motion.
I asked John whether he was making a motion, and he said
I don't mind waiting. I don't have to make the motion now. George is right. I would just like to make the motion before we go to a vote, because if we're going to consider these 3 further, I would like everyone to at least consider the 11 instead of the town. The 10, I'm sorry. That's all.
Okay.
So if George wants to speak before I make the motion, I'm perfectly happy to wait.
Okay. George?
I spoke earlier in support of the Kavanaugh proposal as it is. And before we hear John's motion, which I look forward to, I would like to say that listening to some of John's comments and Don's and Nadine's and Susan's, it seems to me that since these, and also I guess Patrick's, that we're all physicists in the same boat here, as it were. Why don't we just give each member town 1 vote? Seems to me that's real simple.
Steve Bannon?
Yeah, I just want to go back to what Nadine said. So just so everyone understands, Berkshire Hills is probably an equal example. Great Barrington has 5 out of the 10 votes in Berkshire Hills. Stockbridge has 3, West Stockbridge has 2. In my whole time on the school committee, there's never been a block to block the budget or anything else. And so I don't even see that as a legitimate problem. And if it is, neither Southern Berkshire or Berkshire Hills has experienced that in the recent past.
Steve, can you remind us how long you've been on the school committee in Berkshire Hills?
This might be my 25th year, but I started as a teenager, Andy.
Thank you, Steve.
Colin?
I just wanted to loop back to what John said and say that I agree with everything you said, John. And I think the Kavanaugh proposals or the Kavanaugh way of doing it, and particularly with your 11, I like that idea. is the superior way to go about it for all the reasons that you said. But I'm concerned that when this gets to the general public and they have to vote on it, people are not going to take the time to dive into this like we all are. I mean, the last couple of meetings we've had have been some of the best meetings that I've experienced here, where we're really all listening to one another, thinking about things and hearing what we're saying. And I just don't think that's going to happen in the, I doubt it's going to happen in the general public when they all have to vote on this. And that's why I am preferring 3A, because I want to get this done. I think this is good for everybody. But in the end, I want to come back around to the Kavanaugh after we're all together, because like you said, I just think it works much better. So anyway, that was just my commentary. That's all. Thank you, Lucy, for letting me speak.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Hey, Lucy.
Yeah.
If Colin will do me the favor of seconding my motion to amend it to 11, we can move on from that. And I just want to, that's a second from me. I'm sorry, before I do it, I just want to say to Colin and others here that, you know, I'm really reluctant to underestimate the capacity of voters to understand 3 at-large voters. And I would hate to foreclose on something, and it is a change, but we're changing an awful lot here. This is just one more change that would add for the voters, okay, that would add the ability to have more competition from candidates and better candidates, and also to vote. I would hate to underestimate them this way, this early in the game. But having said that, I will make the motion just to amend Kavanaugh to 11, and let's see how that goes.
Is there a second to the motion to amend?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion, any additional discussion just on the motion to amend the Kavanaugh proposal from 2 at-large members to 3 at-large members?
Yes.
Okay, Don.
The motion to amend is merely modifying something that no rational voter in Great Barrington would go for in a million years. They are paying for more than half of the school district.
This isn't germane to that. Lucy asked one question.
And you
vote on it later, Don. It's just 10 or 11.
And you are saying to the voters of Great Barrington, you've got half the people, the members on the present committee, and all we want you to do is don't worry about your money or yourself, just go down to 1 and you'll be just equal with Monterey. Now, I'm for Monterey, and I got to say, if I were in Great Barrington, the modified motion does not succeed in improving the Kavanaugh proposal.
Okay, any more discussion just on amending the Kavanaugh proposal from 10 members to 11, 2 at-large members being amended to 3 at-large members? Any more discussion on just that? Peter Taylor.
No, I want to speak to the broader issue when I have another moment, Lucy, but not on the amendment.
Okay, let's just get through this amendment and then we can talk to the broader issue. Steve Bannon. You're muted.
I'll wait and speak on the broader issue.
Okay. So I don't see any more hands on the motion to amend unless, John, you want to speak on it again?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay. So we're going to vote on just amending the Kavanaugh proposal from a 10-member committee to an 11-member committee with 3 at-large members instead of 2. And recognize by voting in favor of this, you're not saying the Kavanaugh proposal is your number 1 or even your number 2. You're just voting on the motion to amend the Kavanaugh proposal. That's all you're voting on right now. We're going to have, just wait a minute. We're going to have ranked voting. Please hold. let's try and observe our rules of no interrupting each other. We're going to have ranked voting on
Fine.
all three proposals, okay? That's what we're going to have at the end of this. So is there any more discussion on the amendment before I call for a vote just on the amendment?
Yes,
Okay, Bonnie.
I just want to know who seconded the motion.
Colin did.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Mhm. Okay. So I'm going to take a roll call vote on the amendment only. On the amendment only. Chuck.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Tom. Jim. Jim? I'm sorry, you're still muted.
Yes.
Okay. Deb?
Yes.
Peter Taylor?
Yes.
Steve Bannon?
No.
Don?
Abstain.
John Silbert?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
Nadine?
Yes.
Bonnie?
No,
Patrick? Patrick? You're muted, Patrick.
No.
Marie?
No.
Andy?
Sure, why not?
Sarah?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 yeses. So the motion to amend carries. All right, so now I'm going to take additional comments on the broader issue. Peter, you were up first.
Sure. Well, I see some of the virtues in the amended Kavanaugh option, as we're calling it. I want to go back to just the overall points that have been raised by many speakers already around political feasibility. And I don't think that's rooted in provincial interests within any town, Great Barrington, but it's just the notion that indeed Great Barrington in this case, or Sheffield, has more students, and having viewpoints from those communities, which have students within those communities, is an important notion, especially as that has been the way that the school committees have been constructed to date. This can be an incremental change process. And there are some assumptions in the Kavanaugh amendment that we don't know would be true or not around candidate quality. We don't know that the three representatives that would be elected under 3A wouldn't be strong candidates. Let's find out if that's the case or not, and the school committee and a process that can come later can correct it. But let's think about political feasibility in the short term. There's going to be bigger issues that we're going to be layering into whatever recommendation comes through. Let's not get tripped up on one where there are some assumptions that and alternatives that we don't know are going to play out or not in terms of 3A.
Thank you. George?
Thank you, Lucy. Several comments tonight indicated the voters are confused or will be confused. And I just want to say I extremely disagree with that. I mean, our voters at our annual town meetings are very well informed, and I don't think Egremont is an exception about that. So I just want to be on the record to make that comment.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I don't think we're saying anything against the voters. And the irony should not be lost that it took Lucy probably 5 minutes and 2 explanations so we all understood what an at-large candidate was. So if the whole 24 of us who are supposed to be well-educated and have been doing this for 2.5 years can't figure it out, I'll leave it at that.
We got it in 2 minutes. Thank you, Lucy.
Thanks. Thanks, George. Thanks, Steve. All right. Are we ready to do our ranked voting? 7:29 p.m.
Now or never.
Seeing no objection, Jake, can you put it up?
All right, I can try. You want a recap of what they're voting on, just to be clear?
Yeah, you can put that back up. Are you able to amend the slide on Kavanaugh? So it says,
yeah.
Great. Okay, put that up. And I'll walk everyone through it one last time. Emphasis, all options are district-wide election.
Okay, so I'm gonna, these are the strike throughs, but I did an additional slide just to clean it up. Is that okay? So this is your cleaned up slide.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So voting under any of these 3 options is district-wide, meaning everyone in the 8 towns gets to vote for all school committee members. And the elections are biennial, meaning once every 2 years. 3A, we have 11 committee members, each with a single vote, 1 each from Alford, Monterey, New Marlboro, Egremont, West Stockbridge, and Stockbridge, 3 resident in Great Barrington and 2 resident in Sheffield. That's 3A. 3A double prime, 13 members on the board, same composition as 3A, but there are 2 additional members who would be elected at large, meaning there would be no residency requirement, no requirement that they come from any particular town. Kavanaugh proposal, 11-member committee, 1 member resident in each of the 8 towns, plus 3 at-large members, meaning again, no residency requirement for those 3 additional members. So those are our 3 options. And we're going to do ranked voting, meaning you're going to rank these 3, 1, 2, and 3, which is your favorite, which is your second favorite, which is your third favorite. Okay, Jake, let's see if our...
Well, Lucy, I just need to clarify, I can't do 2 things at once, obviously, which means I can't have the slide up and then be tallying stuff. So we can
Lucy, I have it set up. I can help tally.
So if she tallies, I can put it into the spreadsheet. You just won't get the results until later. That is assuming one basic thing. If one option wins more than 50% or higher, it's done. As a number 1. If one option, sorry, I don't mean to confuse. If an option,
Jake, I'm not sure that's been decided yet.
Okay,
we're doing ranked voting. That's all we've agreed to do at this point.
Right.
Is to rank these options and then look at the results. And then the planning board can decide if whether one gets 50%, we're done.
Okay,
because it is possible that every single member on this board from the Berkshire Hills towns doesn't vote for the option that gets 50% of our 24 members. I'm not sure that means we're done. I think that might mean we need more discussion. So all we're doing right now is the ranked voting, and then we can decide what that means after we've done the vote.
Okay. Go.
Okay, so is the plan, Jake, to leave this slide on the board And you're going to be doing the tallying in the background, or you're going to put?
I think Chris is doing it.
Yeah, someone else will have to do it if you want the slide up.
We don't need the slide up. I think we all know what it is.
Come here.
We don't need
Yeah.
this slide.
I don't think we need the slide anymore.
I still have a question.
You have a question, Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay.
My question is, if I absolutely don't want one, can I just vote for the one that's my number 1 and 2?
Yes, you cannot vote. You cannot rank your third if you don't want to rank your
Exactly.
third.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. Charlie, what's your number 1?
Kavanaugh.
Okay, what's your number 2? Sorry?
3A.
Okay. And what's your number 3?
I don't have a number 3.
Okay. George, what's your number 1?
Kavanaugh,
Okay. What's your number 2?
abstain.
Okay, so you have no number 2 or number 3.
No number 2 and no number 3. That is correct.
Okay. Tom Burkle.
Kavanaugh.
I get one.
Yeah. Jim?
Kavanaugh, 3A.
That's interesting.
Deb?
3A, Kavanaugh.
No number 3? Okay. Peter Taylor.
3A. And 3A double prime and then Kavanaugh.
Steve Bannon.
3A and no second and third.
Don Coburn.
Sorry, it was muted. 3A. And you can put in 3A prime for the second one.
3A double prime for number 2. Correct? Is that correct, Don?
Yes.
Thank you. John?
Kavanaugh, 3A double prime.
Kim?
Kavanaugh and 3A double prime.
Susan?
It's tough. I guess after a lot of thought tonight, I'm going to go with 3A and then Kavanaugh and no third option.
Tara?
I'm going with 3A and Kavanaugh second. I still have a couple of questions about the at-large.
Nancy?
I'm gonna go Kavanaugh, 3A.
Colin Smith?
3A, Kavanaugh, nothing for third choice.
Nadine?
3A, Kavanaugh, and nothing for a third.
Kavanaugh's got it.
Bonnie?
3A.
3A, that's
That's
it?
it.
Okay. Patrick?
3A, and that's it.
Marie?
3A, and no second, no third.
Andy?
3A double prime, 3A. and Roger.
Okay, so 3A double prime is number 1, 3A
Yes.
is number 2, and Roger's number 3. Okay. Sarah,
3A and Kavanaugh. And no third.
okay, and I am 3A and
Hello?
3. I'm sorry, did I miss somebody?
I'm sorry, that was me. I was saying hi to my daughter. She walked in the door.
Oh, okay.
I'm muting myself.
So I am 3A and 3A double prime and Kavanaugh number 3. So did I miss anybody?
Did we get Kim?
Yes, I got Kim. Kim was Kavanaugh number 1 and 3A double prime number 2.
All right, thanks.
So by my count, and somebody else, I don't know what you're doing behind the scenes, Jake, but by my count, 3A has 13 first choices and 1, 2, 3, 4 second choices. 3A double prime has 1 first choice and 5 second choices. And Kavanaugh has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first choices. Six second choices. And 3 third choices.
I agree with you totally, Lucy. I followed your.
Okay. So 3A did get a majority of first choice, and 3A also got the majority of first and second choices combined. So now I think we need to talk about whether, as Jake said, we're done or we want to have further discussion.
Let's just be done and let's move on.
Okay. Does anyone have a different point of view? All right, so we're at 7:40. We're obviously not going to get to the other topics on our list tonight, but I do very much want to take public comments tonight, as we do every time. We have 3 people left in the attendee box, and I'm going to give folks a minute or so to see if they want to raise their hands. What do the auctioneers say? They have something they say to make sure that the final bid.
A point of order, Lucy. I didn't understand, Lucy, a point of order. I didn't understand what you said with respect to ruling. Have we decided on 3A? Have we decided that a majority vote is sufficient? If we haven't decided those two things, I'd like to make a motion that the majority vote prevail on this issue.
Oh,
Second that.
Any discussion on that motion?
yes, Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, George.
That motion is out of order. We were doing ranked voting as proposed, and apparently Judge Coburn wishes to disrupt the process. And I can't imagine he'd allow that in his court.
Oh, I think I have a right to answer that. If George would.
Yes, you do.
Okay,
George
wait a
would-
minute, before you answer. I just want to remind everyone of the rules here, right?
I'm going to do it politely.
Wait, okay, but let me just remind everyone. No interrupting, assume good intention, please be respectful of all of the work we have all been doing over these last 3 years, tonight, and going forward. We've got a lot of work done today. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Let's try and keep the conversation collegial.
I think I have been collegial, but
I'm not slapping
you said-
anyone's hands. I'm just asking that we continue to observe the rules.
for
John,
sure. You said before the vote that after we took the vote, we would then decide whether if something got a majority, that would be sufficient. So I think we are now at that point, and my motion is that a majority be sufficient, and that as a result, we adopt 3A.
I second that motion.
Okay.
I'd
So
like to speak to
George,
that motion.
yes, you may speak to the motion.
Thank you. All of us present tonight voted in rank order, assuming that was how the votes would be counted and tabulated. And so suddenly we are moving towards a majority vote. And so I think at the very least, we'd have to take another vote if that is going to be the case. But I find it highly unusual that having voted in a rank order, as though we're in Maine, we are now.
Well, Alaska, but yeah,
Changing.
I mean, Maine and Alaska.
Yes, but I'm not trying to interrupt, Andy. And it does seem to me that that's rather irregular. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion on the motion? Anything new to be said?
Yes, that's a misunderstanding of ranked voting, Lucy. In ranked voting, you go to the ranks if there is no majority. If there's no majority, that's when you take the lowest person, eliminate that person, and then assign that person's votes to the other two proportionally. But when you have a majority, even in a ranked voting system, that's the end of it.
Yes, but not de facto. We voted in rank order voting.
Okay, Andy, and then I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think as well you should. I think it makes sense to have a confirmatory vote because in the state of Massachusetts, we don't have ranked voting. And ranked voting is a way of perhaps organizing the thoughts of this particular body. But this body is ruled by the laws of the state of Massachusetts, where ranked voting is not a thing. So I think we do need a majority vote to just move on. And I think this is the point where we can move on. If it goes down, and then we have another meeting. And we talk about the same thing.
What is the
And I
vote?
don't want to do that.
What is the vote you're proposing we need to have right now that we haven't already? had?
That's the motion that is on the floor, which is to confirm 3A.
Okay. Got it.
That's the motion that's on the floor.
Got it.
Confirm 3A as the selection of this public body that's governed by the general laws of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Not Maine and not Alaska.
So we are discarding the vote we recently took, Madam Chairman.
No, we're not discarding it. We have a new motion on the table and we're voting on that. I made clear at the beginning of the vote, the ranked voting vote, that majority may or may not decide the issue. We were going to have a discussion about that after we went through the process of ranked voting.
Yes, but we have not had a tally of that.
I just gave you the tally of the votes, George. So now we have a motion on the table to confirm that we are going to go with the option 3A that got a majority of votes for number 1. That's the motion on the floor. That's what we're going to vote on now. Any more discussion on the motion? Okay. So is everyone clear on what the motion is? The motion is to confirm, as Andy said, the motion is to confirm that 3A, which is the option that got the majority of number 1 rankings, is what we're going to go with. So that's the motion. Charlie.
I abstain. Did you hear me, Lucy?
You're abstaining from this?
Yes, I am. I'm getting totally confused here. We got judges and lawyers and everybody else and blowing my mind. I abstain.
Would it be helpful for me to restate the motion?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the motion on the table is whether we're going to confirm the selection of 3A. That's the motion on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. George.
No.
Tom Burkle.
Yes.
Jim.
No.
Deb Phillips.
Yes.
Peter Taylor.
Yes.
Steve Bannon.
Yes.
Don Coburn.
Yes.
John Silber.
Yes.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear that.
Yes.
Thank you. Kim.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Tara.
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Colin.
Yes.
Nadine.
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Marie.
Yes.
Andy.
Aye.
Sarah. Sarah. Okay, I'm not hearing Sarah. I'm a yes. So the yeses carry. So we've got,
17.
I'm sorry, Sarah, was that you? Okay, so the motion carries. 3A is our choice. All right, thank you.
I love you all. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, hearing no objection to the motion to adjourn, we're adjourned at 7:52. Thank you, everyone.